What if I told you that some of the strangest flying machines on Earth aren't science fiction, aren't movie props, and aren't computer-generated fantasies? They're real, they fly, and a few of them are already lifting people off the ground right now. Gravity Industries jet suit, 5 jet engines, 85 miles per hour, human aircraft. The Gravity Industries jet suit looks like something pulled straight out of a comic book, but it's been flying real pilots for years. Built by British inventor Richard Browning, this wearable propulsion system uses 5 small kerosene-powered jet turbines, 2 on each arm and 1 mounted on the back, to lift a fully grown adult into the sky using nothing but body balance and arm position. It can hit speeds of around 85 miles per hour, climb to roughly 12,000 feet on paper, and produce more thrust than the pilot weighs by a comfortable margin. What makes it feel unreal isn't just the power, it's the control. There's no joystick, no wings, no fuselage. The pilot becomes the airframe. Move your arm slightly and you bank. Tilt forward and you accelerate. The British Royal Marines have already tested it for boarding operations at sea, and search and rescue teams have explored it for reaching cliff edge casualties faster than any helicopter ever could. It's loud, it's hot, and it burns fuel fast, but the moment those turbines spool up and a person rises off the ground without any visible aircraft around them, you understand why people stop and stare. This isn't a stunt anymore. It's a working flight platform. JetPack Aviation Speeder 4 turbojets, 150 miles per hour. Motorcycle of the sky. Now picture a motorcycle, then strip away the wheels, hand the rider a helmet, and bolt 4 tiny turbojet engines underneath. That's the JetPack Aviation Speeder, and it shouldn't work, but it does. Engineered in California, this single-seat VTOL machine is designed to take off and land vertically from almost any flat surface, fly at speeds approaching 150 miles per hour, and carry a pilot or even cargo across rough terrain that would punish any wheeled vehicle. There are no rotor blades to chop the air, no exposed propellers, just clean turbojet thrust and a frame that looks more like a track bike than an aircraft. The team behind it sees real-world use cases for emergency response, military extraction, and remote medical delivery, scenarios where a helicopter is too big, too slow, or too loud. It's already been demonstrated in test flights, and the company is iterating toward a version capable of carrying gear loads heavy enough to matter in the field. It's the closest thing to the speeder bikes from old sci-fi films, except this one actually exists, and it actually leaves the ground. Aerial tire concept. Road wheel, flying rotor, no air. Here's where things get genuinely strange. Imagine pulling out of your driveway in a normal-looking car, and when traffic stops moving, your tires literally rotate, lift sideways, and turn into propellers. That's the entire premise of the airless aerial tire concept developed for autonomous flying cars. It's a non-pneumatic wheel, meaning there's no air inside, no chance of a puncture, and the structural lattice flexes to absorb shocks on the road. When the vehicle is ready to fly, the wheel rotates 90 degrees into a horizontal position, and the inner blades begin spinning fast enough to generate lift. Powered by an integrated electric motor, the system could theoretically push a small flying car to speeds in the range of 150 miles per hour. The genius is in the dual purpose. You don't bolt on extra rotors that need their own folding mechanism, you don't carry dead weight in either mode, and you don't need a separate runway. The wheels you drove on become the wings you fly on. It's still a concept, but the engineering is sound, and several major tire manufacturers are pouring real research into making it work. The day this hits the road, the rules of personal transport quietly rewrite themselves. Boeing Pelican Ultra, 500 feet wingspan, 1.5 million pounds cargo, 20 feet altitude. The Boeing Pelican Ultra is a plane so large, so impossible sounding that you almost can't accept it was ever taken seriously. Drawn up by Boeing's secretive Phantom Works division in the early 2000s, this was a cargo aircraft designed to haul roughly 1.5 million pounds, somewhere around 17 main battle tanks in a single flight. Its wingspan would have stretched to about 500 feet, dwarfing every passenger jet in operation today. To support that weight on the ground, engineers planned for around 76 wheels distributed across the airframe. But the most unbelievable part wasn't the size, it was how it would have flown. The Pelican was designed to cruise just 20 feet above the ocean surface for most of its journey, exploiting a phenomenon called ground effect, where wings become dramatically more efficient when flying very close to a flat surface. By skimming the sea, fuel burn would have dropped enough to allow ranges of up to 10,000 nautical miles. It would have climbed up to higher altitudes only when crossing land. The plane was never built, the funding never materialized, and the engineering challenges were enormous. But on paper, it remains one of the most audacious aircraft ever proposed by a major manufacturer. Jetson ONE, 8 motors, 63 miles per hour, no license needed. The Jetson ONE looks like a piece of furniture that learned to fly, and yet it's already shipping to customers. This single-seat electric multicopter weighs around 190 pounds, sits the pilot in a carbon Kevlar safety cell, and lifts off using 8 independent electric motors. It can hit roughly 63 miles per hour, fly for about 20 minutes on a charge, and hover in place using onboard stabilization that essentially flies the machine for you. Push the joystick where you want to go, and the software handles balance, attitude, and motor mixing. If a motor fails mid-flight, the remaining 7 adjust automatically to keep you in the air. There's a ballistic parachute mounted on top, redundant batteries, and a LiDAR-assisted auto-landing system that gently sets the craft down if something goes wrong. The truly wild part is the legal status. In the United States, the Jetson ONE qualifies under ultralight regulations, which means you can legally operate one without a pilot's license. You buy it, you charge it, you fly it. Personal Aviation has spent 100 years promising this exact moment, and somehow a small Italian-Swedish startup is the one that quietly delivered it. Lazzarini Hover Coupe, V12 hybrid, 6 rotors, retro future style. Lazzarini Design Studio doesn't build conventional vehicles, and the Hover Coupe is a perfect example of why. Inspired by the long, low silhouettes of vintage Formula One cars and Grand Tour roadsters, this hybrid flying machine carries 2 passengers in an open-air cockpit, while 6 electric ducted propellers, arranged in 3 pairs in a triangular layout, lifted off the ground. A V12 combustion engine sits at the heart of the system, paired with electric motors and battery packs to give it both endurance and instant throttle response. The carbon fiber body keeps weight low. The styling looks like something a designer sketched after watching a 1950s race film, and the entire concept refuses to choose between nostalgia and futurism. It's a flying sculpture as much as it's a vehicle. The studio openly admits it's still hunting for investors to bring it to life, and the path from concept render to certified aircraft is long and brutally expensive. But Lazzarini has a track record of turning unlikely concepts into eye-catching reality, and if even a fraction of the design survives the engineering process, the result will be unlike anything else in the air. AirCar by Klein Vision, road certified, air certified, 3 minutes transform. Most flying car projects collapse the moment regulators get involved, but the Klein Vision AirCar didn't. This Slovakian creation looks like a sports coupe at first glance, but in roughly 3 minutes it unfolds rear wings, deploys a tail boom, and transforms into a fixed-wing aircraft ready for takeoff. On the road, it drives like a normal car. In the air, it cruises at speeds in the neighborhood of 170 miles per hour. It has already completed real intercity flights, including landing at one airport, transforming on the tarmac, and driving away into the city. Slovakia's Transport Authority issued it an official airworthiness certificate, making it one of the very few flying car designs in history to clear that bar. Power comes from a piston engine, the cockpit seats 2, and the entire transformation happens with a button press while the pilot sits in the driver's seat. There are still serious questions about cost, infrastructure, licensing in other countries, and how this fits into normal traffic. But the airframe and the legal paperwork both exist. After decades of broken promises, a flying car finally got real, and it didn't come from Silicon Valley or Detroit. Stratolaunch Roc twin fuselage, 385 feet wingspan, launch platform. The Stratolaunch Roc is the largest aircraft ever built by Wingspan, and the moment you see it on a runway, your brain refuses to process the scale. It has 2 complete fuselages connected by a single enormous wing measuring around 385 feet across, longer than a football field. 6 engines, the same kind used on Boeing 747s, hang from that wing, and 28 wheels carry the weight on the ground. It was originally designed to lift rockets to high altitude and release them mid-flight, turning the upper atmosphere into a launch pad and avoiding the cost of vertical liftoff. The aircraft completed its first flight in 2019, and since then it has been used to carry hypersonic test vehicles into the stratosphere for release. It looks less like a plane and more like 2 planes that fuse together at birth, and yet it flies, it lands, and it carries payloads no other aircraft can handle. It exists in that strange category of machines that look like obvious special effects until you watch one taxi past, and then you realize the engineering team simply refused to accept that something this big couldn't fly. SpaceShipTwo, suborbital flight, Mach 3, tourist spacecraft. SpaceShipTwo isn't quite a plane and isn't quite a rocket, which is exactly why it shouldn't be possible. Built by Virgin Galactic, this winged spaceplane is carried up to around 50,000 feet by a twin fuselage mothership, then released into open air. A hybrid rocket motor ignites, the nose pitches up sharply, and the vehicle accelerates past Mach 3 on its way to the edge of space. After a few minutes of weightlessness for the passengers inside, the wings rotate upward into a feathered position that turns the whole spacecraft into a giant shuttlecock, slowing it gently and stably as it falls back through the atmosphere. The wings then lock back into normal position, and the vehicle glides home like an ordinary aircraft, landing on a regular runway. This is a passenger spacecraft that takes off horizontally, fires a rocket in midair, brushes against space, and comes home as a glider, all in under 2 hours. It's already carried paying customers above the official boundary of space, and despite the staggering ticket prices, it represents the first time in history that civilians can climb into a winged vehicle and be back on the ground the same morning after seeing the curvature of the Earth. Joby S4, 6 tilt rotors, 200 miles per hour, 0 emissions. Closing this out is the machine that might quietly become the most consequential of the bunch. The Joby S4 is a fully electric 6-rotor tilt-rotor air taxi designed to carry 1 pilot and 4 passengers in near silence at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. The rotors tilt vertically for takeoff and landing, then rotate forward for efficient cruise flight, giving it the convenience of a helicopter and the range of a small plane. With a range of over 100 miles on a single charge, it produces 0 operating emissions and runs roughly 100 times quieter than a traditional helicopter at cruise. After more than a decade of development and certification work with the FAA, Joby has completed the first electric air taxi flight in New York City and delivered its first aircraft to a U.S. military base for evaluation. Commercial passenger operations are inching closer to reality, with major airlines and ride-hailing partners already lined up. Unlike the wilder concepts on this list, the Joby S4 isn't a moonshot. It's a finished vehicle going through the slow grind of regulatory approval. When it finally opens to the public, the daily commute is going to look very different, and a lot of the impossible flying machines we just saw won't feel quite so impossible anymore. Like and subscribe. Which of these flying machines do you think is closest to changing your daily life, and which one feels like it shouldn't be allowed to exist at all? Drop your pick in the comments, and if you enjoyed this rundown, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the strangest, boldest, and most jaw-dropping vehicles ever built. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.